Hello, and thanks for joining back in for episode 2, where I'll talk about my first real hill climb event. SCCA Hillclimb differs from most other forms of motorsports in that it's held on a closed public road, typically a winding hill, hence the name. The tightness and variety of turns in combination with the speeds and the lack of safety features that you'd find in a road course result in a thrill ride with the intensity of an autocross with speeds that approach that which you'd see at a circuit time trial, all with more risk than both combined. Hill climbs are run with a standing start and run point to point with a start and finish line in different locations. My first event was at the Weatherly Hillclimb in Weatherly, PA. This is a 6-turn hill climb with some of the most cambered, steep, and dynamic sections of asphalt I've ever seen. It's heavily nuanced and presents significant technical challenges for both the car and the driver. Now, having been my first hill climb at Weatherly, I don't proclaim to be an expert at the course, but I like to walk through some of the features of the course, knowing that a lot of it just isn't going to show up on video. It's not going to be apparent. So we're going to walk through the course with a slowed down run up the hill to point out the things that just don't show up on video. One of the things that you may notice when you're climbing the hill is that grip is enhanced, just from the basic physics of climbing on the uphill. And many of the turns are heavily banked, so in my car I'm usually seeing 1.4, 1.5 Gs in many of the corners, whereas on a flat I might only see 1.2 Gs. The initial climb is a steep drag race and the start line is a bit dug up, so traction is challenging and it requires a precise launch and throttle modulation to hook up at the right time without bogging. Kind of a challenge with a torque limited rotary car. Nail the launch and then grab the next 2 gears at redline without error, which would lose momentum on the uphill. Turn 1 is a blind entry right bend approached at over 70 miles per hour. I brushed the brakes just very lightly near the first road marker and turned near the second, aiming for a deep hidden apex. You have to be careful tracking out as the hill starts to go off camber, which reduces traction, so I always leave a little room for error here. The road also falls away very heavily after the white line, so I always stay inside of those, especially when they're on the outside. You're hard back on the throttle around where the apex is, and again you reach about 70 to 75 miles per hour heading into turn 2, which is a tight left climbing hairpin. A heel toe downshift from third to second, trying for a somewhat late apex, and trying to aggressively straighten out the exit help you put the power down. Even with the limited slip differential, wheel spin is hard to manage exiting all the hairpins, so opening up the steering and getting weight on the inside rear wheel is crucial. Back on the throttle, a quick shift up to third takes you heading towards turn 3, which is known as the wall. I've never seen a section of road so steep that you can basically reach forward and touch the road out in front of you. Due to the crazy steepness of that inside line, none of the cars even try to apex this turn. Even if you don't high center, the amount of speed and momentum that you lose trying to make it up that steep section make it basically pointless. The better line for most cars is to ride the significantly less steep outside lane, which also helps you start to get onto the throttle a little bit earlier. My car has a high enough redline that I can hold second gear into turn 4, which is very similar to the approach to turn 2. I again focus on trying to time my apex, choosing an exit line, and opening up the steering so that I can get back on the throttle. The quickly approaching turn 5 is known as the jump, and probably one of the gutsiest and dangerous course features I've ever experienced. The approach is taken wide and nearly flat out, with just enough lifting to point the nose aggressively towards the inside as the road starts to crest, because on the opposite side of the crest, you catch air, but the road continues to bend to the right. And since you can't turn while you're in the air, you need to have the car lined up just right to avoid launching right into the woods and boulders that are on the left. Regardless of the attitude as I approach the jump, I always straighten out the steering wheel right before takeoff and don't move it until landing. After landing, it's a flat-out charge to the finish through a somewhat double late apex left-hand sweeper that finishes at over 90 miles per hour at the finish. Then I briefly scrub speed while heading in a straight line to slow down for the last bend, which is after the stop, and then cool down on the opposite side of the hill. So with the course walkthrough over, let's ride along for a full speed fast lap.